Hello, everyone. Before I start my what's up in archaeology, I just want to clarify from my last announcement about the demonetization of one of my three of my videos, but one hasn't been restored. Having slept on it, I've more calm now, so I decided to just maintain the status quo. I get enough views in VidMe, probably to get more money than I do here. In YouTube, I've only amassed about €5, and in so far in VidMe, it's close to 3. So it's I could use a little bit of financial help just to get some decent microphones, stuff like that. Nothing. I don't want to become as rich and famous as other YouTubers. My material is very, very niche. It's pure history, pure archaeology. Well, pure archaeology, not pure history. But I do dabble in history, like I've in some of my videos before. So, my last my announcement yesterday, I think it was very on a very hot-headed, angry me, and I've calmed down since. So let's get on with the program. Yes, everyone follow Archaeonomy. He is an awesome archaeologist, and he should have more than 50 views. Get him to 50 so he can get verified, because he has awesome videos. Okay, just before we start again, I always have a beer to share with you guys. Well, to share in spirit with you guys, because I always drink in your company. And today I'm drinking a Greek beer. I found it in Lidl when I went to Lidl, Spain, which is close to where I live. I live very close to Spain, like I've said before, and it's called Mythos. Very, very appropriate name, Mythos. It has 4.7% alcohol volume, and we shall see how it is. I'm going to open it now. It's got one of those pull-top lids. Ooh, it's very hopsy. Nice. It's a very nice lager. Yes, very, very enjoyable. I reckon I could enjoy this better than Coronas. It has a little bit more what I call meat in it. But anyway, let's get on with the article. As usual, I'm going to share the screen. And before I start off, a little bit of a background. I've talked before about how we have disparaged the Neanderthals, because I love the Neanderthals. Neanderthals are my favorite race of humans. Yes, race of humans. That's how you say it. That's the correct term of race of humans. They are a subspecies of Homo sapiens, like we are. And they've been disparaged since the late 19th century. So when they were first discovered in Germany, they weren't first discovered in the Valley of Neander in Germany, but they were described, so that's why they're called Neanderthals and not some French name, because they were contemporary in the French case. So that's just a bit of background. Now, they have current research and discoveries and studies of Neanderthals have always surprised us. They are surprising us every single new study that's been produced. And this small article, to me at least, is not an exception. In fact, it's a marvelous example of experimental archaeology, which I absolutely adore. I'd love to make things and try to imitate how they were made in the past. The problem is I don't have access to many of the materials like flint. I would love about 500 kilograms of flint nodules just so I can blow my mind off and make flint flakes and knives and blades and so on. So let's get started with the article. They have discovered, or they have at least imitated. No, imitated is the wrong word. They have at least tried to reproduce how Neanderthals made glue. And we shall share the screen. And I've chosen in the description, you guys will see, if you want to have a look, that I have three articles, one from the Smithsonian, one from the Science Daily, and this from the New York Times. I've chosen this one because it seems the most well written. Not that the other ones lack any scientific credentials or scientific background. This one seems to have been written more seriously than the other two that I presented there. I also have the actual article from Nature, which is the actual study that was peer-reviewed and etc. Well, it's not peer-reviewed; it's published in anyway from the scientific journals. And I have two definitions of what glue is from the history of glue, and what an adhesive is. Apparently, I didn't know that glue and adhesives are basically the same thing. Technically, they're basically the same thing. They both chemically bond two surfaces together to resist separation. That's the most basic term you can get from a glue. The cement, what else? Cement. Just opening up something here. Sorry, guys. My mind's wandered off. Cement, a mucilage, a glue, a paste. They are all adhesive products. Apparently, also, Portland cement, because it can bond to, can act as an inorganic type adhesive because it can bond objects like bricks and beams in it. But in general, they are basic. We are dealing with organic and natural, even synthetic ones, but mostly natural organic adhesives or glues and etc. So the title is "Starting Fires to Unearth How Neanderthals Made Glue" from the New York Times. Yes, I find this is a very left-leaning newspaper. Everyone knows that, but it's still a well-written article. So we can't judge everything just by how they are presented. And what did I do here? Oh, yes. Nope. I'm a bit lost. Sorry, guys. One sec. Anyway, I'll just continue. Starting fires. Some 200,000 years ago, Neanderthals used tar to attach handles to tools and weapons. Archaeologists have performed experiments to see how they could have made this adhesive. Neanderthals seem stuck with an unflattering reputation, which I've just covered. The entire species of early human ancestors. There we go again. That is wrong. All articles that I've always set upon here say that Neanderthals are human ancestors. They are not human ancestors. They are our cousins or our race cousins. They are a subspecies of Homo sapiens neanderthalensis. Here they abbreviated to Homo neanderthalensis. We usually accept this, but the correct nomenclature is Homo sapiens neanderthalensis. and we can move on. I won't remain too much on this. Every article you will probably see from where I read will, especially from newspapers and so on, will have this human ancestor. They are not. We did not derive from them. We are parallel to them. It has long been reduced to a pejorative to describe someone who isn't very bright, and that's probably the only thing that triggers me. I am genuinely semi-triggered. God, I won't go to an extent of an SJW or a feminist and all that, or a Marxist, whatever, but I do get slightly chuffed at them being used as a pejorative. It's not. They were very, very bright. And every time we find a new discovery, it shows how brilliant and how equal to us, at least, they were. The growing evidence of the sophistication of Homo sapiens neanderthalensis, and recent research suggests another overlooked mark of their ingenuity. They made the first glue in the form of tar. Everyone knows that tar is very sticky. It can be natural or extracted from plants. Natural is the tar that you find in, for example, in sea pits from America has a lot of those. California has the tar pits in Los Angeles, where they have found a hell of a lot of megafaunal bones, etc. So I have to address these guys from archaeology. Some Mary get super offended by the word prehistoric. Archaeologists get in trouble when they use that. Well, archaeologists generally deal with prehistory. I know what you mean, archaeology. So I'm just clarifying for those who possibly don't know, or possibly in the future see this stream. Prehistory means before writing. So post-history or history is writing. That's it. You can do whatever you want. You can excavate exactly the same. But if history is involved, history meaning writing, then it falls under the term, you can call it historical archaeology, which is so disparaging in dates across the world. In Sumeria or Mesopotamia, history or historical archaeology is from the 6th millennium to 8th millennium or so on, to 6,000 years before Christ, exactly. That's when first cuneiform writing appeared. In Australia and New Zealand, yes, it's past 1700s, late 1700s, mid 1700s. In America, it is 1466. That's when the historical period begins. Before that, it was prehistory, even though the Mesoamerican civilizations and the South American civilizations were very, very advanced. They had roads, they had social structures, etc., etc. But history and prehistory is just writing. So, getting back to just to clarify, hope you guys like this little diversion. Now let's get back to the terms. Archaeologists first found tar stones and black lumps at Neanderthal sites across Europe about 2 decades ago. The tar was distilled from the bark of birch trees some 200,000 years ago, and it seems to have been used for hafting and attaching handles to stone tools and weapons. But scientists did not know how Neanderthals produced the bark, the dark, sticky substance, more than 100,000 years ago, before Homo sapiens in Africa used tree resin and ochre adhesives. No, Gunny, none of you are goddamn, none of you are retards. I'm probably the most retarded one here. In Africa, around about 100,000 years ago, after Neanderthals in Europe, they were producing their own glues, adhesives, etc., to attach blades to shafts, etc. Make tools, make handles, etc. For a handle. In fact, a handle amplifies. Why do people attach handles to cutting edges? Because it amplifies the force. It's basically a lever. So that's what it basically is. You have a knife blade or a blade, a cutting blade, and you can cut easily, but if you attach a handle to it, you have even greater control, and you can apply more force, concentrated force, in fact. So it is basically a lever. That's what a handle does. And I'm talking about a narrow handle, a narrow shaft, a spear shaft, etc. They are basically handles, and it amplifies the force of the blade. Oh God, yes, Malachite. I can almost see it that being pushed by Neanderthals, culturally appropriating tar from the Kangs. But shit, I can't. I can't swear too much today. I'm gonna try how experiment on how the YouTube bot handles clean language without me swearing too much. So I'll try to control myself. Now, in a study published last Thursday, 31st of August, in the scientific reports, the Journal of Scientific Reports, I have the link in the description of at least Nature. A team of archaeologists have used materials available during prehistoric times to demonstrate three possible ways Neanderthals could deliberately make tar. While the study does not provide Neanderthals used any of these methods, of course not. These are just hypotheses, and very valid hypotheses. It's almost like the Occam's razor. You eliminate all the complicated possibilities, and it's the most simplest one. So that's what they did. They experimented, getting all the three methods which could be used, and if they all produced one, anyone could have done it. Any of those methods could have been used, or one that we don't know of yet. Of course, there's always that possibility. There is a popular perspective that Neanderthals, being these simple cavemen, that's me, Gunny, caveman, you see, and slow type brutes, said Paul Kozowick, a graduate student of Leiden University in the Netherlands, and the lead author of the study. He was the lead author. Of course, he's a graduate student, and he would be an experimental archaeologist. That's what experimental archaeology is all about. It is awesome, very nice, and it's used for hafting. Is evidence that this isn't really true. Wait, let's get back to this. This tar production and its use for hafting is evidence that it's not true that they were slow and brutes, etc. I will try that archaeonomy. Yes, I will try that experiment. But we'll see. So Mr. Kozowick is a graduate student. Yeah, that's his title. He's not a doctor yet. He's not anything. Just Mr. That's fine. And his colleagues spent several days burning birchwood to make tar using the different methods, and after each one measured how much of the black stuff it collected. This is probably part of the experiment. Tar collected in birch bark and derived from what researchers call a pit roll method. I don't know what it is. I haven't fully read the study. Of course, I'll do it. Excuse me, my throat is parched. I don't know what this method is. I will look into it better because I have time to read. So I usually do the program, then read well into it. So The first team strategy was known as the ash mound method, and it consisted of taking a piece of birch bark, rolling it up, and then covering it with ash and glowing embers. Then after 20 minutes, they removed the bark and unrolled it to find drops of tar stuck in between the bark layers, which could easily be scooped out with a stick. As simple a method, simple a method as the method was, it yielded only about a pea-sized amount of tar. Okay, so the first method that they tried produced little amount. It's not invalid or wrong, just produces small amounts. Okay, the next method was the pit roll, which is the one that they produced that showed up in here. The yellow birch bark and some tar in between. You can see some charring on the picture. But the article's in the description, so you guys can read at your leisure. You know, I always say, read at your leisure. Read them. I put these articles, especially the studies. You can identify them as soon as you open. You see that's all the or how it's structured. It's not a newspaper article. It is an actual scientific paper, and it's good reading. It's for your education. Well, not for your education, just for your reading. And it's if you're interested, it's really good. But I am just waffling on. Let's get back to the thing. The pit roll. They folded a piece of birch like a coffee filter, an impromptu bowl, placed it in a hole in the ground about the size of a cup. Then they placed a tightly rolled piece of bark in it, covered it with embers. As the bark got hot, it created tar that dripped into the birch container. After about 40 minutes, the embers burned themselves out, producing about a large coin's worth of tar. So we got from a pea size to a large coin's worth of tar. So this method seems to be an evolutionary. No, that's not the wrong word. An improvement in technology over the last one, because they got a simple method produced pea size, a slightly different. More complex method produced a large coin's worth. Now, the last and most complicated method, see, they went from the easiest to the hardest. That's how you do experimentation, people. It's easy. It's not hard. The last most complicated method, the raised structure, was similar to the pit roll. They dug a hole and used folded bark as a container. So because you have to know that you have to. In this period of time, there was no plastic cups or even steel or iron or metal, so it was all natural. It was leather, it was bark, it was woven stuff, it was bladders, it was containers, even probably, this is pure speculation because there's not been survival, but they could have easily gouged out natural bowls of wood that you can find in nature. They could have just cut them with the flint blades and get them get a bowl that probably termites manufactured out of a branch or something. That's just that's how they had the containers. So the last and most complicated method was a raised structure, similar to the pit roll. They dug a hole, they used a folded bark as a container, but then they put a mesh of willow twigs over the container and rested the rolled bark on top. Then they covered the structure in wet soil and clay, like an igloo, that they smoothed into a dome. Finally, they built a campfire around the dome, heating it like an oven. This strategy produced a staggering amount of tar, about 15 to 20 times more than the first method, but it took several hours. So they basically distilled it. The third experiment was basically building a prehistoric distillery. Yeah, tar pots. Yeah, but no, the tar is not mellifluous. Tar is not. Yeah, you can't make tar pots. Tar becomes malleable at skin temperature, 36 degrees. If you get a bit of tar, even if it looks hard. You put it in your hand, you warm it up, and it basically melts. So they would have made containers, is the correct word, to contain water. They could have made waterproof. They would have made waterproof vessels out of skins and bladders, etc. And like I said, they could have made containers, natural containers, by observing one in nature from a say Gunny man. I hope everything's cool. Getting back to the explosion, like I said, a container that from a tree stump or tree branch that had been hollowed out by some natural or animal type of thing, and just cut it up and shape it, slightly shape it. That's just speculation. There is no evidence of that. I'm just basically speculating that they could do that, not that they did. So let's continue to maintain our so on. This is the pit roll method, where the tightly rolled piece of bark goes into the hole and covered with embers. As the bark gets hot, it creates tar that drips into the birch container buried beneath. Okay, that's how it is. So you guys can see it. Now, they could have used any of these methods, because anything that we use they had available, obviously. Said Gieske Langegans, an archaeologist at Leiden University and co-author of the study. So that's Gieske Langegans is Langejans. That's how you spell it. That's how you say it. I hope I'm corrected by a proper Dutch person, Netherlands person from the Netherlands, because sometimes I can't pronounce, but sometimes I can. So Dr. Langejans said that understanding how Neanderthals produced the adhesives may contribute to a better understanding of their intellect, which is obvious. You have bark, but you end up with this black sticky substance, and the two seem completely unrelated, she said. So the general thinking is that it requires some abstract thought to make these connections. Obviously, thank you, Ian, man. Yes, I have my pronunciation correct. Langejans? Is that better? I know that J is ya, is a sort of an I, but I don't know how the G is connected. So that's I'll take your close enough, as I said before. Can take anything, but yes. Of course, Neanderthals. It's been proven with recent studies that Neanderthals did have abstract thought, as they produced jewelry, they've produced art, etc. And those require abstract thought to produce. So, and this requires planning. I would go personally, of the three methods, this is my opinion from the reading enough of the study, I would go for the second method. It seems to be the most efficient, and they obviously knew how to. No, I am again. There's no evidence, but I'm putting all the information which I have, that I've read enough of, and how they were capable. I could be almost certain that they had birch containers. They are simple to make, and as soon as they saw the possibilities, which someone invented, one of them in the past 200 or even earlier than 200,000 years ago, and they made the birch containers, which were probably used initially for carrying water, etc., etc. And so they, of course, they had enough of the cognitive planning, abstract thought to produce this. I would go for the second method, the pit roll method. That is my opinion, and it is valid until someone makes a study that shows it definitely, either the three or another one that they don't know. And of course, obviously, I will accept the new data. So So yes, I think we've come up to the end. Yeah, this the people here. Sabrina Stoltz is a research anthropologist of the New Smithsonian Institute, and Paul Petit from Durham University in the UK. That brings us to the end of this new What's Up in Archaeology for the 11th of September. Well, having fire and pitch is two different things. There is at the moment there is no evidence that Homo erectus or anyone up until Homo sapiens neanderthalensis actually produced pitch. But I'm not saying that they couldn't have used it, because they could have used resin. They probably used resin. They probably resin from trees, from pine trees. They probably even use wax from bees, natural wax, to haft. There are many natural glues, adhesives, cements that are found in nature that you don't need to process. This is the first evidence we have that's of a hominin. In fact, our racial cousins, Homo sapiens neanderthalensis, actually manufacturing a glue. Up until then, they would have just extracted it from natural means, from tar pits, many of them across the world, in the Eurasian continent, even in Africa. Like I said, beeswax, resin from pine, from other trees and plants. So yes, that would be, at the moment, no archaeonomy. There is no evidence that they use pitch, produced pitch. I think they didn't. Well, I don't know. I don't know at the moment, because they use the Acheulean assemblage, which is the big hand axes, and there's a small hypothesis that these Acheulean hand axes, if you throw them, they anecdotally, the tests have been not inconclusive. They seem to, when you throw them, they seem to end up with a point pointing forward. If anyone knows how an Acheulean hand axe is, it is basically a teardrop point and a big butt at the end. And they would have used it more as an axe than as a throwing instrument. But if you threw it, they found that it tends to, after stabilizing, the pointy bit goes first. So, but that's just from my past recollections. I have to look up the studies that they did that. But that's not peer reviewed from me. So, yeah. Anyway, before I go, I just want to see how the chat, if I have to answer any questions. Let's see. What was it about? Well, there is a feminist history telling us about how culture is improved by Lahu Akbums. So, oh yeah, nah. MLFS, nah. I know that one. Let's see. Anything else? Yes, exactly. That is an Acheulean hand axe made from a flint module. I would bloody love one of them. They are bifacially chipped, because they are chipped on both sides. You can see. Thank you, Archaeonomy. I'll share this, guys, so you can see, so everyone can see it. Okay, you guys can always also just click on the link, but I will share it anyway. I think you guys can see that. Let's check up. It'll take a little bit of time. It's waiting for that. Scalagrim? Rule of Stars? Scalagrim? That, see, it's appeared. That is what on the right. But the hell? Oh, sorry. No, this one. Sorry, guys. That's clicked on the wrong tab. I occasionally do that. Skullagrim did a bit of flint snapping. I don't know who or what the Skullagrim is. Rule of Stars. I'm sorry. Flint. God, I wish I could get to Flint. I live in a granitic, mastiff landscape. Northern Portugal, where I live, is just pure granite. There are some veins of other quartz and other stuff, but no flint. That is in southern Portugal. God damn it! Oh, thank you, Archaeology, the YouTuber weapons guy. Cool. I'll look him up. Thanks to Rule of Stars, mate. There's also a hell of a lot of experimental archaeology making these actual axes. They are called axes, by the way, and they were handheld mostly. What I said, that if you throw them, they tend to straighten up into the point. That's just possibly coincidence. Yeah. Anyway, I think this is long enough. I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you for coming along, guys. Thank you for watching. Let's see how if I'm instantly demonetized. I did not swear. I just spoke science, and I didn't mention anyone unmentionable, like Steve Shives. Let's see. Maybe Steve Shives. If I mention Steve Shives, I'll get demonetized. I'm going to try this out. Steve Shives. Let's see. So, guys, thank you for coming along, and good night. See you next time.